This is the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set.
Episode 12, recorded April 16th, 2015. Hello and welcome to the TV Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set. I am your host, Tyson. Joining me today is Lee.
Hi.
Kat.
Hi.
And Will.
Hello.
Today we're mostly going to be talking about Daredevil, the Netflix series from Marvel, which released this last Friday in entirety, or in its entirety of its first season. We've got through varying amounts of episodes, depending on, who you ask on the panel here today. But we're also going to talk a little bit about Twin Peaks, because Lee wasn't here for last week's discussion. And we're going to cover a few other things. So first, let's just talk about what we've been watching this week. What's been going on? So, Lee, what have you been watching this week?
Oh, I'm getting into this, it's this British drama called Silk. It's about a bunch of lawyers trying to get, basically the rank of the Queen's Council or Queen's Court or something like that. So basically, when you get Silk, you can pick whatever cases you want. You can work whenever you want. So it's a very privileged title. So there's these two lawyers in this firm fighting for that title, and they have pupils, and it's just very intense, like court cases. It's very nice. I really like. I like the acting, and I like the script too. Like the cases are always conflicts of emotion, like she doesn't like rapists, but she has to prosecute this rapist, or she has to defend a rapist, as one of her clients. So it's there's a nice emotional, struggle with all the scenes. I like that. She
doesn't like rapists. Ah.
I know, the audacity.
Yeah. So is it kind of like is it like political, like in the sense of like they're kind of at war with each other and they're kind of maneuvering against each other, or is it more just like they're trying to kind of do the best job each in competition with each other?
It is sort of competitive. Like these two lawyers are pit against each other, and their boss is sort of like playing favorites with both, and really he's sort of like lying to one of them. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's very intense. Like you see the work is very intense to be a lawyer. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That sounds interesting. So, Kat, what have you been watching?
Let's see. I watched the new Gotham, and I actually watched that and then Daredevil and thought that they were an utterly bizarre contrast. Especially because this was kind of a low point for Gotham. Not that, I don't know if that's saying much, but it was just overly goofy and demonstrating a lot of this series' flaws. And then
I didn't know it could get lower than the pilot.
Which is like this intense, dark, richly written, character-driven show. It's like, it was like night and day. And then I watched, but I know we'll get to that in a minute. And then I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was really looking forward to that episode. And I know
you did an impressions piece on that.
And my first impressions of it were really, really frustrated, which I've kind of calmed down about, and I'm not happy about it, but I've accepted it. And so I'm excited to see where they go from here. Because from my understanding, the whole cavalry thing is supposed to be incorporated into the rest of the season. So I'm looking forward to that. And I've been trying to catch up with Community and Flash, but I'm still a little bit behind on both.
I'm like 3 episodes behind on Community, and I just watched this week's The Flash. I'm behind on a lot of stuff. So, Will, what have you been watching?
Basically just Daredevil. I did watch this week's Flash, because I was excited for it to return. And I watched this week's Once Upon a Time, and that's about it.
Okay, so now let's go over to our talk about Twin Peaks. So last week we did a podcast for the 25th anniversary of Twin Peaks. We all watched the movie Fire Walk with Me. Now, Lee wasn't able to join us for that podcast, but we were all really kind of frothing with excitement to hear what she had to say about, because she hasn't seen the series. And I think it's kind of like a schadenfreude kind of thing. We just kind of want to experience her dilemma of having seen that with no context. So Lee, can you tell us first, just what is your the vaguest general impression of Twin Peaks from Fire Walk with Me?
I thought it was like a crime drama, and then I thought it was a comedy, and then I was like, this is not anything. This is just somebody's dream. Like, it's like following somebody's really illogical dream, and they're trying to explain it to you, and you're like, that will never make sense. That has never made sense. Why are you trying to make sense of this? Like, it's literally like dropping into like a dream, and then just trying to be like, okay, this is what you think about.
That's actually what we talked about on the podcast as being kind of just the David Lynch experience in a nutshell. All of his movies are kind of like that. Like, logic kind of plays second fiddle to emotion, and because of that, like, sometimes you'll have these really tense scenes or these really dramatic scenes, and they kind of really pull at you and kind of make you like distressed, but like it doesn't logically make sense, like, and it's very much like you're coming out of a dream, you know. And like, have you ever had one of those dreams? I'm sure we all have, where you wake up and you're kind of like, you have this feeling that it was such a important dream, and there was so much going on, and there was so much meaning to it. But then as you start to wake up and you start to kind of realize what actually was happening, you're like, wow, that was stupid. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It was just a whole bunch of random thoughts like swimming around in my head that are not so loosely connected that they can't.
None
but
of
it
my
has
dreams
this impact on
ever
you.
make sense. None of my dreams ever make sense. Like, I'm always like, what the hell is that? Like,
I just had one of those dreams the other day. It totally didn't make any sense whatsoever, but
You should go into David Lynch's line of work.
I was like playing a lot of Zelda Majora's Mask, so my dream
that will do it to you.
So my dream was like the moon was crashing down, except it wasn't the moon in my dream, it was the sun was crashing down. And like, somebody was telling me it was like going to get hotter and hotter. And all I could think about was like, now the world's ending, I can go to Walmart and get all the free games I want and play them until whatever happens.
And then a little boy in a suit held out creamed corn in his hands.
Yes.
That's a reference to the series, the Twin Peaks series. You saw the little boy, but you didn't see the creamed corn in his hands scene. So, so yeah, Twin Peaks is kind of genre agnostic. So you can't really say it's a comedy or a drama or a mystery or a cop thing. It's kind of everything and nothing. That's kind of its whole thing. And what we talked about as being such like the good thing about Twin Peaks, what makes it work so well, is that it can make you like laugh at just kind of like the absurdity of a situation, and then follow it up with something that's just so distressing and potently emotional, like immediately afterward, that you're kind of like, oh, what's going on, you know? And it can kind of like get that contrast, that kind of gap between those two. If you don't have one, the other's not going to have the same impacts. So at times it comes across super, super cheesy. And at times it's like just way dramatic. And of course, you know, in some ways it's a parody of a soap opera. So there's very soap opera-esque aspects of it. The movie in general, I think we all kind of liked it less than the series when we went over it. It's kind of infamous for being disliked. Quentin Tarantino had a famous quote where he said that David Lynch had gone so far up his own ass that as to make it unenjoyable, and that he liked David Lynch before that, but he couldn't stand it after it. And so yeah, it's a very divisive movie, much more so than the series itself. But the series itself is similar in the way it's just very odd. And
yeah, it kind of reminded me of Portlandia, but Portlandia makes sense because it's a comedy and it's supposed to be funny and it's a genre, but this was just had no idea what was happening at any time. Like, I was wondering what he would tell the actors, because like when you read the lines, you're like, I have no idea. Like, there's no reference to like how the actor should say the line or like what the scene is about or anything. I'm like, I would not, like, if I was the actor, I would not know how to do my job.
It would be fun to be on the set of a David Lynch film just to see how he gets the actors to react to a scene where a woman is doing interpretive dance for their instructions for a case. Stuff like that, you know, like how the actors respond to that it would be fascinating to see, you know, like if he's just very earnest about it or if he's just, laughing while he's doing it, or, it'd be interesting. He's a weird guy, and not just in the way he makes his movies, but in general. He's very based on routines. He used to go to, I think it was Bob's Big Boy, like every day for like a decade or something. He went there for lunch, like at the same time exactly. He's very, very OCD kind of thing,
I felt like it also should be pointed out that he did play a character in this movie.
Yes, he was in this movie.
Weirder characters at that, which is kind of appropriate.
So, Lee, in the movie, he was the deaf kind of captain of the FBI. He had kind of like the thing sticking in his ear, and he was always screaming.
Okay.
So that was the actual director of the.
Yeah, I've seen David Lynch. We had a David Lynch film like thing at TIFF in Toronto. So his face was plastered everywhere. I think it was like from one of his movies. It's not Fade to Black. It's something black. I don't know.
Trying to think, he has so many. Was it Blue Velvet or?
I don't know. I've walked past it like 100 times, but I don't remember. But I just remember seeing David Lynch everywhere. And there was a photo booth where you could take a picture and they would make you look like David Lynch.
Oh man, I want that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just kind of move on from that. It was just kind of interesting to kind of see someone just completely blind to the series going in and kind of see their experience to it. So does this give you any interest to watch Twin Peaks, or is this just kind of like no?
It does not make me want to watch Twin Peaks.
It is a good show, but it is definitely a weird show. So let's kind of move on to our central topic then, which is Daredevil. Now, I watched the entire run of it. I watched it in about 2 days. I just got hooked and completely watched it. Will is up to episode 11, I believe, which is like, 2 episodes behind me?
Yes, I got 2 more episodes to go before it's done.
And Lee got through 4 episodes, and Kat got through the first 2, which is kind of the pilot experience, you could say, because it's kind of go together, I guess, or that's what people are saying. I don't know how well it went together in my mind. The second one kind of started abruptly differently and felt like a whole other episode to me, but
yeah, me too.
But that's kind of was the first things I was hearing about it, so I'll just go with that, I guess. But let's talk about it in general. So just going around the room here, what did everybody think about it in kind of like the vaguest terms? Like, Lee, what did you think of it?
I thought it was really, I thought it was done very well. I think the first 2 episodes are good, but I think just like as I kept watching, I just felt like everything was getting better and it was more getting into the flow and the characters were just getting richer and you were learning more about them. I didn't find Daredevil all that captivating in the first couple of episodes, but like episode 3, episode 4, I'm like, yes, this is more of like the struggle, the internal emotions, the underlining of the character sort of. And I liked it more as I watched, I guess. It is very it definitely builds, like it definitely ramps up, I would say.
So Kat?
I liked it. It didn't yet captivate me, and I realized that could still happen. But I liked it. I liked how there's a richness and a complexity to the dialogue. And I do like how they're using the flashbacks with his father to emphasize that he is like one of the grunts of the MCU, which I think is just such a refreshing new way to tackle this huge universe that up to this point has still been dominated by superpowered individuals. So I think there's a lot about it to be admired, but it's not quite captivating me emotionally, but that could very well change in episodes to come. Like I said, like it is night and day from Gotham. It is, I mean, they have very similar concepts, but wow, Daredevil just puts Gotham to shame.
Yeah. I was gonna say that the flashback structure, to me is very reminiscent of Batman Begins. The way the flashbacks would kind of happen quickly, a character would be in the middle of talking, it would quickly go to part of a flashback, quickly go back out of it, as like a way of kind of showing origin when it hits. It's not like Lost or something where a flashback will be really long, you know, and play such a prominent role throughout a whole episode. It'll just be in kind of these little moments throughout that kind of help define, you know, the motivations of a character at a certain point. So I thought, you know, it really reminded me of the way they did it in Batman Begins.
Yeah, actually, I thought more than once watching those 2 episodes, I felt like it's Marvel's answer to Arrow, which is also inspired by Batman Begins, I think just because of the darker take on a character whose abilities are not based on superpowers, and the flashback structure. So, and I mean that in a really positive way, because Arrow is my favorite of the comic book TV shows, and I think it's refreshing to have the MCU finally have something that's dark. It's a welcome change.
Will, what are your thoughts?
I loved it. I agree with Kat. The first 2 episodes aren't captivating, but there's promise. There's richness there. There's like, you know, that this is something worth investing your time in from the go. But yeah, once you dig deeper into it, it does become more captivating. There is that richness there. There's layers there, not only to Daredevil himself, but when they introduce the Kingpin.
Yeah, Fisk.
Yes, he is a much more interesting character than the Kingpin that's been portrayed in other media. They added layers to him. They gave him depth, which is, you know, so he's not like just evil mafia guy like he is in like everything else.
D'Onofrio's Kingpin is the highlight of the series. Just amazing. He comes in the 3rd episode, doesn't he? He's like briefly in the 3rd episode.
Yeah, at very end, yeah, he briefly appears for 1 second.
Yeah, he's amazing in the role because I think what really does it for me with him is he's a big guy. He's 6'4". I was looking it up just when I was doing the impressions because I kind of wanted to see how big he actually was. But there are moments where you see him next to other actors who are bigger than he is, and yet he never seems smaller.
Right.
He always seems like this big lumbering presence amongst everyone. He seems like he's like Hodor, you know, from Game of Thrones, just this massive figure. And he's not, you know, when you actually see him next to people, he's not that much bigger than a lot of the people on it, but his presence is so powerful that he just looks massive. It's just the way he holds himself, the way he holds his hands, and the way he talks, and everything. It's so deliberate, and it makes him just seem just massive. And that's, you know, largely credited to D'Onofrio in the role.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, Daredevil, A+. Comparisons to Arrow, I feel like they were both trying to do the same thing, but Daredevil takes it to another level. It goes harder than Arrow ever did. And I think, ultimately, so far my feeling is, if I compare Season 1 of Arrow to Season 1 of Daredevil, I think Daredevil's actually the better show. As much as I love Arrow.
Agree.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd agree. I'd have to say that, yeah, it's just so good, and it gets better as it goes. Like I said, once D'Onofrio comes in as Kingpin, it's amazing. You know, once the other kind of presences start coming in, Lee, you haven't gotten to Stick yet, which is kind of the guy that trained him to be the way he is. Will, you've gotten to that. He's amazing as well. He plays it off perfectly, because you gotta think like, oh, they're gonna show scenes of a blind guy with a stick, old guy with a stick teaching a blind kid how to do all sorts of crazy martial arts stuff. It's going to be kind of cheesy and stuff, but he's just this exact right amount of just kind of like grumpy, like he's just this very grumpy old man, and like he's kind of, there's like a ruthlessness behind that
he is,
and it works.
He is not what you expect going into it, because when you think of like the traditional superhero mentor or teacher, you know, you think, yeah, like the old guy, the sensei, who teaches the hero like all his moves and skills. He is not anything like that archetype.
Yeah.
He's actually very interesting in his own right. But I
Okay,
won't
Yeah.
spoil it.
this is one area in which I did take issue with the show, and I don't know if this is going to change for me. I guess it depends on the show. I found the fight sequences pretty standard, ho-hum, and I guess for me, what I was looking for is like, oh, one guy who can beat up a whole hallway of other people. Like, I've seen others do that, that's nothing new anymore. I want to know what it is that makes him uniquely capable of this. And I feel like visually there should be some really interesting ways of showing how his heightened senses allows him to do that. And neither of the first two episodes did that, so I was a little bit like, I was a little bit underwhelmed by the action.
See, I disagree with you on that. I think the first episode did a lot to play with, like, how his senses are used. In the last fight at the end of the episode, the guy's going down the stairs and he's hearing every step, and the guy hits a chain so he knows there's chains there. And it's like you can see him kind of piecing his strategy together based on the sounds that the guy's making as he's approaching him. And the second episode, that fight in the hall, it's not like he's like an extraordinary fighter beyond what's like humanly possible or something. I don't think that's really what it's about so much. But that fight was amazing. It was all done in one shot. It was a single shot, that entire thing. And I thought that was kind of amazing. And what I think they do so well with the fighting, what I like so much, is they really get into kind of the consequences of doing that kind of work. I mean, he gets battered. He gets really messed up throughout the show, I mean, more so as it goes on too, and you just really kind of see the brutality of that line of work. And I think the fight in the hallway did a good sense. There's points where he's like exhausted and he's like actually leaning against the wall, kind of catching his breath while he's fighting, and then kind of like using the wall to kind of like push himself back off the wall to get back into the fight. I think that kind of stuff is amazing. That's what I think really sells it, and that it makes it abundantly clear he is like the street level character. He is not, Captain America or, Iron Man or something.
He is not going to be taking on Thanos anytime soon,
Yeah.
Sure, no, I can see that. I don't know. And maybe there's a degree to which I tend to tune out. So that some of those kind of action sequences, just because I've seen them so much. Like, Jason Bourne did it was really cool, and now everyone tries to do their own take on it. And I think there can be different levels of why I enjoy it. Cause for instance, I have always enjoyed watching Oliver Queen do it, but I think that's wrapped up in how, I've always enjoyed the different Oliver Queens.
It's also your emotional investment to the character.
Well, I think it's the emotional investment in the character, certainly, but I think it's also, there's no better demonstration of what a dramatically different person Oliver is now from what he used to be than his physical prowess. And so I think that's something I've always found satisfying. So it's possible that, like, I'm just not properly invested in the character. I don't know. But maybe that'll change as it goes on.
I agree with Kat. Like, I found the fight sequences really good. But if you ask me to distinguish that from a regular fight in a movie, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Like, I wouldn't be able to say, oh, that's, like, Daredevil's fighting because it has this and this in it, which clearly signifies that he's using his hearing and his abilities, and this is how he fights. Like, it looked like a regular movie fight at many points for me, and it was done well. Same thing, I tuned out, like, when they were fighting.
I'd highly recommend watching just that final scene again from episode 2, because of just the way it's shot and put together. It's pretty amazing. And like I said, there's a scene where he's like leaning against the wall because he's exhausted in the fight, and he pulls himself back forward. And I think it goes to the whole relentlessness of his nature of, his father being the guy that would never get knocked down, like he'd get back up every time. And that's kind of him, just, he's exhausted, but he keeps pushing forward, I think is,
I agree with Tyson. I really love, like, the fight choreography is really good. It's like movie level, fight choreography. But the fact that you see him get exhausted, you see how beaten and battered he gets. Like, you don't even know going through the series. Like, he really gets battered, like, to the point where you don't really, like, in the action films, like, not even in, like, Batman or, like, an Arrow, you don't really see, like, Oliver Queen get beaten up this bad. You know, he always seems to, like, bounce back from his fights. Daredevil doesn't really do that. You know, he doesn't really bounce back from his battles. He gets pretty roughed up.
He finishes them, and then he's just, like, nearly dead.
Yeah, he's nearly dead. And then he gets out there and he does more, even though he's clearly not in the condition to do it. And it's like...
Have you guys seen the Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.? Like that kind of fighting where it's like a clear, methodical sort of like, this is why he's doing exactly what he's doing. And
right.
When they break it down,
kind of expecting that, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
Like,
yeah.
I think that would make it more clear, like,
I think,
like, the intention and the emphasis on, like, here's his power, like, here's his super ability and how he's using it.
They do show that. They took a very more subtle approach to, like...
It's subtle, yeah.
Very subtle to showing off, like, his powers and how he uses them, instead of being, like, all in your face, like, they, you know, like showing infrared vision or something from his, like, and saying, here's how his powers work.
They do have shots of him, like, doing the echolocation, and then, like, when it's fighting, they don't do that, so I was like, oh, that's interesting.
They do have one moment where you kind of see the way he sees the world. And it's very brief. It lasts like 3 seconds.
I want more of that. Like, that's what I want more of. I want to see more of how he sees versus just, like, the fighting.
I want to see more of that.
It's fascinating because, you know, he said, like, well, how do you see the world? And he said, like, the world on fire. Yeah. And you see kind of, like, how he sees it just from just the echo, you know, location, everything. It's, it looks really cool, and it's just like 3 seconds.
I have to mention this just because I found it was so funny. On Reddit, somebody was like, Batman and Daredevil should switch names because one uses echolocation and the other one does, like, stunts and has, like, gadgets and gears and stuff. And I'm just, like, died laughing.
And both of them been played by Ben Affleck.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah.
One very badly so, and the other one to huge negative outcry.
Maybe he'll surprise us.
And now Ben Affleck.
I think he'll be good in the movie. I have faith that he'll be good in it because they're going for a kind of different approach with Batman. I'm not afraid that the new Batman Superman movie is going to be a Daredevil movie again.
No.
I've heard nothing but bad things about the Daredevil movie.
It was okay. I don't know.
That's the best you can say about it, then.
It was okay. I watched it. I thought that was a movie. When I finished watching it.
You know, there are worse comic book movies out there than okay, so...
Yes.
So when they re-release the movie, they can put your quote on it, Will.
Yes.
It was a movie.
It was a movie.
it was a movie, Will, TV enthusiast.
That needs to go on TV Enthusiast or Film Enthusiast right now. The review.
That just sums up its quality right there.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
quality tweet reviews.
But yeah, for its time, it was definitely one of the better superhero movies out there. There weren't that many great ones when Daredevil came out.
Oh, it's certainly better than the Schumacher Batman.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Oh, please,
but that's
a low
not saying
bar.
much.
That's a low bar. What
Yeah,
isn't better than the Schumacher Batmans? I would even say the X3, The Last Stand, and Spider-Man 3 are better than the Schumacher Batman.
Yes.
It's like saying that food tastes better than bile.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Okay, so it sounds in general that we all like Daredevil. It sounds like Will and I liked it more. We'll have to see later on if that's mostly attributed to the fact that we've just seen a lot more of it, or if maybe it has to do just with our general taste. Maybe we're just more into that kind of action and the darker stuff. One thing I will say, Kat, is that the brutality picks up big time after episode 2. Episode 3 begins with a fight scene that kind of made me go like, oh God, like out loud. And then, there's a scene with a car door that's pretty brutal that happens, I think,
I know, I kept saying...
in the 4th episode. Oh, man, it gets really brutal as it goes on.
I kept saying, this is a Disney Marvel show. And that's like, it's Disney. It's like, don't let your kids watch it. If you have, like, if you have young children who love the Avengers, love the Marvel brand...
Yeah.
This
is so much more material.
That's something I'm actually enormously relieved about because I feel like up till now I've had this concern that the invisible hand of Disney is at play and like moderating everything the way that Disney always moderates things, which I find troubling and offensive.
Right.
And so to me this is the first real sign that no, Marvel is probably still being its own thing, which is what it really needs. So I'm actually really relieved. I was afraid that they were just going to make all of the Marvel Universe vanilla when it's not. And it doesn't deserve to be.
Sanitizing. That's why...
Yeah, that's not the case.
That's why previously I believed there would never be a Punisher because of Disney. After this, I have a lot more faith that they'd be willing to do that, to go down that road. Because they already have.
Yeah, it's not as hard as Spartacus. Spartacus was just downright grotesque at points.
Right.
I mean, I remember a part where a guy got his face cut in half, from, like, down the middle, and, you saw his, like, brain fall out of his head. It's like, Spartacus was brutal, like, super brutal. It's not like that. It's not that bad, but it is, like, in that R territory. It is not, if the first 2 episodes are PG-13, episode 3 and on, most of them on after that are R. They're definitely in that area. I mean, the scene where, to spoil it, because he said it's okay, and it's still pretty early on, Kingpin's date gets interrupted by a guy who's working with him.
Oh, I feel bad about spoiling this.
His response to it is,
well, he's
looks
not
like
happy.
Lee hasn't gotten there yet, so maybe I shouldn't say it because Kat
was
okay with it. But
I'm right at the date. Don't ruin it for me.
Okay, I won't say more. I'll just say it's pretty jaw dropping. So
sure. Well, and for me, my concern it isn't even necessarily willing to be grotesque in your violence, because that's something I have mixed feelings about. I think it's also a willingness to be adults, because I feel like Disney is something that sanitizes things and isn't and creates escapism in place of where storytelling needs to have more realism.
Right.
And like one of the things I loved about Days of Future Past is I feel like it had an adult sensibility that doesn't really exist in most of the Marvel movies, and that's fine for the most part, but it makes me wish that kind of adult sensibility of adult issues and adult matters would maybe be more present in the MCU. And so what I like about Daredevil is that it's not even that it's brutal and violent, but that it's adults.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I'd say much more so than Days of Future Past was. You deal a lot with his, well, actually not as much as I thought it would be, having heard about it earlier, but, he has issues as a Catholic, Matt Murdock, with, the idea of if he should kill somebody, and that becomes kind of a big dilemma throughout the series is Fisk too big to take down?
Right.
Is he just too big and too connected that it's impossible to take him down? And at that point, in order to save people, is the only option murder?
Right. He comes to grapple with this question of, eventually he's going to be at the point where it's kill or be killed. And is he able or ready to cross that line? Could he do that? And he grapples with that question a lot throughout the first season.
Has he not killed anyone, during the first couple of episodes?
Oh. No.
He has a no-kill policy thus far.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is he upset as a Catholic? He hasn't killed anybody.
He's upset because he's
afraid he
committing
might.
violence, and
yeah.
he might.
He might.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the exact opposite of Arrow, where Arrow just killed without any compunction until like his best friend disapproved of it, and then he started feeling bad.
Hey, okay,
Wait a
I'm sorry,
minute.
but I'm gonna quickly jump in and defend Arrow. And to be fair, I'm biased because Arrow still is my favorite. But I think a key part of Arrow's first season is, the show, like, he kills a lot of people, but I don't feel like the writers expect you to be okay with that.
Right.
Like, that's
Yeah,
the thing I like about the show is the writing doesn't expect you to be okay with his playboy persona, and it doesn't expect you to be okay with his vigilante persona. So I think that's part of what makes him such an interesting character. And that's what I love about second season is I think they did an incredible job of making that the core of second season of Arrow. Anyway.
But that struggle of morality that he had in second season is kind of what's going around the whole time through Daredevil, which is, I believe, what Will was trying to convey is that
sure.
It's not that the Arrow's bad. It's just the Arrow came into it kind of embittered to the idea of like not using violence. He was just perfectly fine with it. And he's doing it. And then he started to kind of reestablish human connections, and then that kind of drove him away from it, what he had been doing. Whereas in Daredevil, he's got human connection. He's not coming back into society. He's been there, and he's struggling with his religion and with his stance on violence in actually moving forward into vigilantism. So it's kind of like they're kind of addressing a similar issue, like what Arrow did in season 2 and what Daredevil's doing now. It's just that they're kind of taking it as whereas Arrow came in willing to do anything, and Daredevil's coming in very reluctant to cross certain lines and trying to figure that out.
I thought it was like an unspoken rule that if you're gonna be a vigilante and beat up people, like you are okay with killing and you've signed up to kill people. Like I thought that was like an unwritten superhero rule, like thou shall kill some of the times when it's required.
Well,
because I need to live.
Isn't it something that frequently is an issue for Batman?
Batman also has a strict no-kill policy as well. Had it for a long, long time. I won't say from the beginning, because, when the character was first created in the 30s, they had him kill people left and right. But eventually it went on, like, he had, a moral stance against it. So, I mean, that's been a part of this genre storytelling for a long time now. The question of having your vigilante hero be a killer or not. And so it hasn't, like, really been an established thing where, most of them just kill.
In Kick-Ass, they do.
Well, in Kick-Ass, yeah, that's based on a Mark Millar comic, and Mark Millar takes gleeful joy in just writing sick and twisted stuff constantly.
I like his stuff because it's like it always kind of acts as a deconstruction, and there's always a deeper meaning to it.
Right.
So Kick-Ass is kind of a deconstruction of the idea of costume vigilantes, and it kind of explores how ridiculous the concept is.
Right.
And then it starts to get really dark. Like it starts to go like, oh well, if this happens and if this escalates, what happens then? And recently he has a movie out right now called Kingsman. That's amazing.
Yes.
And it does the same kind of thing for like the James Bond type archetype. Oh, you did? Oh, so good.
Yep,
and that
awesome.
is well took gleeful joy in killing. There's a fireworks scene.
There's an exact slice down the middle scene, and I thought you were talking about that when you first started mentioning it.
No, slice the other way down the middle.
The other way?
Yeah, like the front of his face is cut off.
Oh. No, it's I don't know. Okay.
With Kingsman, that's different because vigilantes have a moral compunction about killing, but spies don't.
Yeah.
Like James Bond. James Bond doesn't care if it gets the job done.
But at the same time, the most recent James Bond movies, to my understanding, have differentiated themselves by kind of implying that this is kind of a haunted character as a result of the fact that he feels he has to
Right.
keep killing. Like, there's definitely an emotional cost for him.
Right. That makes the new ones more interesting, in my opinion.
Have any of you watched Burn Notice, the TV series on USA?
Seen a few episodes of that.
Burn Notice?
Yes.
Yeah, Burn Notice is about a spy. It's you might like it, Lee, if you haven't seen
Is
it.
it with Brad Pitt?
No, it's
Damn it.
Michael Donovan, I think is the guy's name. Bruce Campbell's in it as well.
I liked
Absolutely.
how he explained to the viewer all his like little tricks and secrets of the spy
They
trade.
talk about
Yeah.
and a lot of that's real, which is fascinating.
Right.
He'll like tell you he'll tell you like he'll do something crazy, like, and then he'll tell you like why he's doing it and how he's doing
How
it
it
and why it's like a
works.
little spy secret and how it works.
Why it works. And it's
I know where that's from now. It's from, I'm gonna screw up his name. It's from the Indian guy from Parks and Rec. He talks about Burn Notice.
Probably,
in
yeah.
in his stand-up comedy.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Burn Notice is really good. One of the things I really dug about that series is he is like this, like we were just talking about spies and killing and vigilantes and killing, where he tried not to kill people. He was okay with people dying, but he didn't want to do it himself. So like he would oftentimes set up a situation where he would get like a cartel to like, suspect their former leader and then they end up killing their own boss or something. So he'd manipulate these situations to cause it, but he just didn't want to do it himself. So he just avoided it as much as he could to do it himself. And there was a moment in one of the episodes where the girl that he's kind of into through the whole series was kind of like, she was at a point where she was threatened and her life was in danger. And the guy was talking to her and basically saying, oh, well, she was a distraction. You need to get rid of her, blah, blah, or whatever. And he just pulls up his gun and shoots him in the head. I mean, it was just like immediate with like no hesitance, just like no remorse, just like instant. And it was that idea of like, he's avoided killing. That doesn't mean he's incapable of it.
Right.
He can do it, and he can do it like at the drop of a hat without a slightest bit of remorse. But he just chooses not to, most of the time. And he was put in a situation and he just did it, and I thought that was really one of the most amazing scenes from a show like that, just because it was so instantaneous. It's like the guy was talking and he just raised his gun and shot him just like instantly.
And also, going off of this is also, I was telling you, that it's also a good idea to introduce the Punisher into the MCU through the Daredevil show, because he'd make a good contrast to Matt Murdock, to Daredevil, who Matt Murdock is struggling with this issue of, should he kill? Is he going to have to kill? He doesn't want to kill. Whereas the Punisher, his whole persona
well, the Punisher is
he's going to kill because he's the Punisher, because these people need to be punished. In the ultimate,
it's not about stopping crime or preventing crime. It's about punishing crime.
Yeah, it's about punishing.
So for
crime.
him, yeah.
So, so if like the Daredevil, if he sees the Punisher, sees his ways, that provides a contrast that also gives Daredevil the conflict of, that could easily be me if I'm not careful, And I think that would be a really interesting way to bring the Punisher into the MCU.
Based on the tone of Daredevil alone and what they're doing with the interconnecting stories for the Marvel Netflix series that are coming out, I think that the Punisher coming to Netflix is an eventuality. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Right.
Is it going to be like second season, when these shows start going their second season? Are they going to add another one? Are they going to have like Daredevil take a year off and then they're going to have Punisher instead? Are they going to do something like that? It's just a matter of when it's going to happen, because he fits that world, like that version of the MCU.
Oh yeah.
Too well not to show up. And they have the rights to him. It's one of the few characters that they haven't really used that they do own the rights to. So.
Well, is it true that they're intending for all of the characters to, after all of the seasons have aired, they're going to have a team up of all of these
major
characters?
The Defenders.
That sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to that.
So now I'm like really looking forward to the rest of the series that are coming on Netflix. Jessica Jones, Luke Cage.
Jessica Jones, which has what's her name from Breaking Bad is in it.
Kristen
She was also
Ritter.
in Veronica Mars. Yeah, Kristen Ritter. She was in Veronica Mars as well.
Yeah.
She's the girl with the really huge eyes.
That's going to be like another different perspective for the MCU too, because it's going to focus on a girl who was a superhero, had superpowers, but now she's retired. She's a private detective. She doesn't want to go out and be a superhero, you know?
Because she has trauma in her past.
She has trauma in her past. So that's going to be another new perspective for the MCU that we haven't seen. And it's going to... And that's exciting.
She frequently dates Luke Cage, who's going to be the third series, is going to be focused on him. So the main character of the third series is going to be a prominent character in the second one.
Right. Yeah, because...
Oh, that's cool.
And then Luke Cage's partner that he teamed up with a lot in the comics, so it's probably going to be happening in the shows too, is Iron Fist, who's the fourth series.
Iron Fist also teamed up a lot with Daredevil.
Daredevil's almost on the outs as far as like his connection to the rest of them. I'm wondering if they're going to have him show up in the other series before the Defenders. Because we already know that Luke Cage is going to be in Jessica Jones. There are pictures on set of the two of them together.
Well, yeah, because those two characters are so connected that they can't really do those series independently of each other because, you know, they're dating. You know, so you can't like have Kristen Ritter in her series constantly referencing her boyfriend. And then never seeing you know?
But that's going to be interesting to see how they differentiate them with those two being so close like that. And if there is a tonal difference, I mean, they're being run by different people, I believe. So, you know, it's not the same showrunner running both of those two shows. So it's going to be interesting to see how that is played out because it's going to be like almost like season 2 of Jessica Jones. But it's like, for some reason, they're paying more attention to her boyfriend. You know?
Yeah.
And then they're going to come together in the Defenders, but I'm thinking that, you know, there's got to be an appearance by, if not Daredevil, then of Murdoch and Foggy, as lawyers, are going to have to play a role in these other series. Because otherwise, they're going to have like 2 of these series with like a really, really deep connection. And then 2 of them kind of like, you know, a little off connection, and then Daredevil kind of like by itself.
Yeah.
So I got to imagine they're going to like weave it in. So it's almost as if these new series for these other shows are like one series, and we think of this whole thing as like Lost, and that it's just this massive ensemble cast. And they're just, you know, instead of focusing like, what, this is the Jack episode, this is the Kate episode, it'll be like, this is the Daredevil season. This is the Jessica Jones season.
They're doing what they did for the Avengers with the Defenders, is that instead of just giving us the Defenders, they're building these characters up and giving us, you know, all this stuff about these characters, what makes them tick, making us familiar with them before we get to the team up show where they team up. So that
this is the phase 1.
Yeah, this is the phase
1. So next they have the outer space element.
They go fight Thanos.
Yeah. So let's close this off just kind of with everybody's, you know, rounding out everyone's impressions here, back and going in a circle again. Lee, what did you think of the show as a whole, and are you going to continue watching it?
Oh, definitely going to continue watching it. I think it's got really good potential. I'm in the middle of 4th episode, as you know, and just seeing the Kingpin and there's like a storm coming, and I'm excited for it. So I'm definitely going to keep watching. I know, hearing from you two, that it's definitely going to pick up, so I'm excited for that as well.
Kat?
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, I agree. I think it has a lot of potential. I think there's a lot about it that's really well made. I just think, unfortunately, I have so many else that I'm watching right now that I need to wait until I have more time, and then I'll probably just sit down and watch the rest of the show. But I can't imagine I won't.
Yeah. And, Will, are you going to finish this tonight?
I might. I think. If not tonight, then tomorrow. Wait. because, yeah, I'm 2 episodes away, so of course I'm gonna finish this.
No, I'm gonna stop right now.
Yeah, no, forget. This show is not for me. 11 episodes, forget it.
We'll check in next week. You're like, yeah, I got halfway through episode 13 and just stopped.
Yes.
I just thought, is this really going anywhere? Okay, so that wraps up our talk about Daredevil. Sounds like we all enjoyed it, some more than others, but we'll see kind of how that progresses as we continue to watch it. We'll check back in on other podcasts and see kind of what our progress is and how everybody's liking it as it goes on. So, now let's kind of talk about what's coming up this week. Now this week there isn't a lot coming out this week, but there's kind of 3 kind of notable things I wanted to point out. So, this Friday, April 17th, tomorrow, or tonight, I guess, for Will already, and for Lee as well, The Messengers is going to be on the CW. Now, we did this in our, fall preview, I believe. This is the one about the strangers that are all connected by some event that seems to be like Lucifer's stalking them and like some kind of dark angel figure, you know. So that's that series. So that was supposed to be out this last week, I think, and got delayed. I think that was probably wise, considering this last weekend had Game of Thrones and Daredevil.
Oh, yeah. I forgot I watched Game of Thrones this week, too. Forgot to mention that in what we're watching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. Well, we had a big discussion about that.
Yes.
So that's coming out on Friday, April 17th, which by the time this podcast's out, it'll have probably already aired. So, then the next day on Saturday, Orphan Black is coming back to BBC America. Does anybody watch Orphan Black?
No.
I want to, but
it's
on my list.
Okay, so I'm alone there.
I got too much on my plate to pick up another show right now.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's mainly
on Netflix,
worth watching.
Isn't it?
I think the first 2 seasons are.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, but yeah, it's coming, the new season starting on BBC America, Saturday, April 18th. Let's see here, and then Sunday, the next day, right after that, is the 25-year anniversary of Wings. Did any of you ever watch Wings?
I've watched Wings before. My grandparents were, like, really into that show. So when I went over to my grandparents' house, they'd watch it. So I watched several episodes of that.
Lee looks dumbfounded. Never heard of Wings?
What is Wings?
Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah.
The one
Wings...
guy from that remake of The Shining.
Steven Weber.
None of this looks familiar.
So Wings was a show about it took place on a small island, and it was about these brothers that owned like a small airline. Not like, like one of those, private jet, like really small plane kind of airlines you see in some more rural areas. And they owned this airline, and they were both pilots, and they had a girl that they were both kind of interested in, so there was like a love triangle. It's perhaps best known, it had 2 kind of really notable guest characters. One was I think he was a cabbie on the show, played by Tony Shalhoub, who went on to play Monk.
I see Monk. Yeah, I see the guy from Monk.
Yeah, and the other one is Thomas Hayden Church, who was Sandman in Spider-Man 3. He was also in Sideways, that movie about wine drinking.
Sideways was awesome, but very confusing.
Yeah, he was the friend in Sideways.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not the main character, but the friend, the blonde guy.
That guy. Okay.
Yeah, so he was in it. He was like this kind of airheaded mechanic for the plane.
Yeah.
And then, nobody else really is that noticeable in it. Tim Daly was in it. He was kind of a big guy in the 90s just for making weird little guest appearances here and there. He didn't really, besides Wings, I don't think he really had anything major. He just kind of would show up here and there in random things. Steven Weber, recently, his career, he played the other brother, has been kind of picking up in small appearances. He was on this season of Helix, which, I didn't even watch this season. I watched last season. I'm holding that off till it's on Netflix or something. And he was on one episode of Community. He was on the season premiere, I believe, where they did the little bit with Shirley being like a detective with
oh yeah,
he was
the baker and the butcher.
Yeah. So
okay,
he was the other guy.
I thought I recognized him.
So that's Steven Weber. So he was the other brother. He's been in tons of little things here and there. He'll make like little brief appearances, playing some like probably some kind of unsavorable character at some point or another. But yeah, that's a 25-year anniversary of it. We're not going to do like a week or any big kind of themed thing. I just thought it was worth addressing. I watched Wings. I got really into it when it was on syndication, and I was like, I just had nothing to do, and you go through and you're watching all these kind of reruns of old shows, you know, and that was one of those shows that at the time was just playing constantly on USA, just like every day. There'd be like 10 episodes of Wings. And so I would just it was one of my background noise shows. I would just kind of leave on in the background, and I thought it was a pretty funny show, pretty decent, and kind of a unique premise. And just wanted to kind of mark its 25-year anniversary. And so that's pretty much it for our podcast today. I was gonna bring up something to talk about what we're gonna do next week, but I haven't yet figured out a plan for next week, so I'll have to get back to you guys on that.
Next week is a surprise.
Next week is the surprise topic.
It'll be a quiz.
I'll let you guys know what we're gonna do in a couple days. I'll figure something out and post it on Skype for you guys. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're gonna wrap off now. Thank you for listening to the Weekly Set TV Enthusiast podcast. I'm Tyson, your host again, and we had Lee, Will, and Kat on with us today. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@tventhusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of all of your favorite shows. 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 Of all of